Today I'm going to teach you how to play Heading Forward. In Heading Forward, you are someone who has just suffered a traumatic brain injury, and you are enrolled in a rehabilitation program to try to improve your skills. Your skills are separated into 4 categories: adaptation, cognitive, finance, and endurance. In order to win the game, you have to take skills from 3 out of these 4 categories and improve them from stage 1 to stage 2, stage 2 to stage 3, and stage 3 to stage 4. Then complete stage 4 of the skill in order to remove it from your deck. And you must do this before the calendar goes from your starting number, 15, 12, or 10, all the way to 0. When setting up the board for Heading Forward, the first thing you want to decide is whether you're going to play an easy, medium, or hard game. That will change where you put the round tracker. Easy game is 15 weeks, medium game is 12 weeks, and a hard game is 10 weeks. After that, you're going to give yourself 1 spoon, which always starts in the unused position, and 3 brains. These will increase throughout the game, but that is what you start with. And you do not start with any money. Every other bits are kept in a supply. When setting up the deck, you take all 17 skill cards. Make sure they're stage 1 and shuffle them together, making sure that they all stay with stage 1 facing right side up and oriented to the top. Then you're going to take one of these skills at random and remove it from the deck. This skill, health in this case, is the trigger skill for the game. Then you'll take the trigger card and shuffle it into the deck. Again, making sure that you keep all the skill cards at stage 1. Once you're done shuffling, you place the deck under the deck top card and you're ready to begin. At the start of each turn, you will draw cards from the bottom of the deck equal to the number of brains you currently have. At the start of the game, this will be 3 cards. Then, you're going to use the cards that you've drawn, plus your other resources like spoons and money, to achieve the objective listed in the card and possibly progress those skills. With stage 1 skills, you'll be expending resources like a spoon and either a care or a time in order to do that. So in this situation, if I wanted to improve shopping, I would need to expend a spoon by moving it from unused to used. Then I would need to expend a time by discarding a card with a time icon in the top right corner of the card. Once I've done that, I will do what's on the achieve step of the card. In this case, the achieve for a stage 1 skill is simply to progress the skill, which I do by rotating the card to its next stage. I then discard the card, and that action is complete. At the end of my turn, I will discard any cards left in my hand. On later turns, you'll be able to take actions that will allow you to gain more resources. For example, with this hand, you could choose to gain more spoons by using chores. You would expend 1 spoon, discard all the cards in your hand, and then gain another spoon. Additionally, you could then progress the skill to the next step by using 2 more spoons and flipping chores from stage 2 to stage 3. Similarly, you could use education to gain more brains. You would expend a spoon and a time. You'd be able to achieve gaining a brain, and you'd be able to progress it by discarding a second time. In this case, shopping, moving you from stage 2 to stage 3. Lastly, you could use shopping to gain money. Expend a spoon and a time. Achieving would allow you to gain money. And then you could progress it by discarding education, which would move you from stage 2 to stage 3. Now, progressing the card isn't necessary. but it is often helpful because you do need to get skills to stage 4 in order to win the game. While most of the cards in the deck are skills that you are working on in your rehab program, there is one card, the trigger card, that represents a reminder of the trauma that caused your head injury in the first place. When you encounter the trigger card, you must take and resolve the trigger skill before you can do anything else in your turn. So in this case, you'd need to expend 1 spoon and 1 care before you can do anything else. We do happen to have that. We've got a heart on social 1 and a spoon available, so we can discard that. You may achieve as long as it doesn't cause you to gain brains, spoons, or money, so we don't do that. And if you can progress the skill, you must. So in this case, we spend the money and progress this skill from stage 2 to stage 3. You then put that trigger skill back, discard the trigger card, and continue with your turn. In this case, using budget to expend another spoon and time in order to upgrade the budget card. If you can't complete the skills on the card, like for example, health 3 here, if I didn't have any spoons or any money, I couldn't complete the card, then you couldn't take any actions at all that turn. You'd have to just end your turn immediately and discard your hand. Most turns, you will end your turn with some cards left in your hand, either because you don't have enough spoons to play them, or because you require other resources. Like for example, you have a card that requires you to expend care, but you only have time left, or the card requires you to spend time, but you don't have enough, you have care instead. If those cards are stage 1, at the end of the turn, you just discard them and they go into your discard pile. However, if those cards are stage 2, 3, or 4, they atrophy and go down to the next stage below. So for example, cooking 2 would atrophy to cooking 1, and family 3 would atrophy to family 2. If, at the end of your turn, the trigger card is still in your hand, you discard the trigger card and atrophy the trigger skill. In this case, it would go down from stage 3 to stage 2. As you get near the end of the game, you will begin to have enough resources to work on the complete conditions for your stage 4 skills. For example, looking at budget 4, there's a complete condition of having 7 money. But first, you have to expend the spoon and the 1 to 3 care you usually would need to on your turn. So there's my spoon, and I have got 2 cards here that add up to 3 care. So that's taken care of. Then I take my achieve step. I can gain a money for each care that was discarded. So 1, 2, 3 money. And then the complete condition for this card is that I just have 7 money. I do have 7 money now, so I can remove this card from my deck, set it aside, and it will count as one of the 3 completed treatment hierarchies that I need to win the game. There are 2 different ways that a game of Heading Forward can end. First, and preferably, you are able to complete the complete condition on 3 different stage 4 cards in 3 different categories. Once you are able to do this and remove those cards from your deck, you win the game. The game can also end if you need to draw cards from an empty deck and the round tracker is at 1. When that happens, your rehabilitation program has ended without you meeting your goals. Your insurance company has denied further treatment because you haven't made enough progress, and you lose the game. Now that I've covered the rules for Heading Forward, I am going to cover a couple sample turns. So this is a mid-game situation. I've got 4 brains, and so I'm going to start this turn by drawing 4 cards. In this set of cards, I've got mostly stage 1 skills, but I've also got stage 2 family. Most of these cards require me to discard time. I've only got 1 time. So what I am going to do is I'm going to use this family card to expend it. I have to discard a care, which I will do. And that will let me draw 2 more cards. So 1, 2, and there's trigger. So we're going to have to deal with that. So that's the end of bad action. And for the trigger, I look at the trigger skill. In order to expend this, I need to expend a spoon and a money. So there's 1 spoon and 1 money. The achieve condition, I don't need to expend care for the rest of the turn. And then if I can progress it, I must. And that is discarding a spoon at a time. Let's expend a spoon there. And then I've got 1 time in my hand. I can discard that. And that will allow me to progress this from 3 to 4. Now I've resolved the trigger card and I discard that. I can do whatever the resources I have left allow me to. Unfortunately, both of these skills require spoons, and I do not have any unused spoons, so that is the end of my turn. Social is a stage 1 skill. I just discard it. But chores here is at stage 3, which means that it atrophies. It goes down from stage 3 to stage 2, and I put that in my discard. Next turn, I refresh spoons. Still have 4 brains, so that is 1, 2, have an empty deck. So you get to reshuffle a bit. Reshuffling. Put the deck top card on top of that. Draw my last 2 cards. So I have chores again. I have driving again, which is interesting. Got memory and planning this time. I would like to, I think, draw more cards. So I'm going to choose to expend time for this and discard planning. That will let me draw 2 cards. So 1, 2. So I've got a stage 4 work and a stage 1 hobby. I can progress driving if I spend a spoon and a money. I will do that. So now driving is going to progress from stage 2 to stage 3, and it gets discarded. My remaining cards, work requires me to discard time, hobby requires me to discard time, memory I could play, it requires me to discard care, and chores doesn't require me to discard, I just discard everything, and also expend a spoon. So I will do that. So I will expend the spoon, I will discard my hand, and then the achieve step there is that I will add a spoon. This will let me take more actions in future turns. I would need 2 spoons to progress it. I don't have 2 unused spoons, so I can't do that. I just discard chores 2 and go on with my turn. Refresh spoons at the start. I now have 3 spoons. Oh, got that trigger card again. 2, 3, 4. And this time I have a problem because this trigger card requires me to expend a spoon, 2 time, and 1 money. I have 0 money. As a result, I cannot complete this trigger. I have to discard everything. So I discard trigger, my stage 1 skill is discarded, my stage 2 card in my hand gets atrophied to stage 1, and because I have the trigger card in my hand at the end of my turn, this trigger skill also atrophies from stage 4 to stage 3. So that's 3 sample turns for heading forward.